We first caught up with the California-based nonprofit group ShelterBox less than 3 weeks ago when volunteers first made the trip to the Poland-Ukraine border to help refugees escaping Ukraine. Their humanitarian efforts continue now in the country of Moldova, and that is where ShelterBox response team member Stephanie Christensen is joining us live now. And thank you so much for being back with us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So almost 4 million refugees have left Ukraine, including more than 380,000 crossing into Moldova, where you are. That is 15% of the country's entire population, and the country is not a NATO or EU member and lacks the resources to support this influx of refugees. Just some of the challenges facing Moldova and the crisis. What are you seeing on the ground?
So the refugees here have come from Odessa, mainly, and they're staying in the capital, Chisinau, where we are. And the vast majority are women and children. About 10% are staying in collective centers here in the city, and they're being extremely well cared for. Given the limited resources, the government here is doing an incredible job providing for them. But about 90% of the refugee population is living either in apartments or with host families, and they're outside of the coordinated humanitarian effort, and that's where ShelterBox is focusing.
And as we're looking at some of the video playing beside you here, Stephanie, Moldova, we can see, is one of Europe's poorest and most isolated countries. What's happening in Moldova right now, and how are these factors making humanitarian efforts even more challenging, even despite the fact they're not part of NATO or EU, just from a poverty standpoint?
Yeah, so actually the efforts are pretty coordinated here right now. Things are going well, but there's uncertainty about whether there will be a significant another influx of refugees, how long people will need to stay. And so a lot is up in the air, and there's a lot of humanitarian coordination preparing for whatever happens next. And as a disaster relief organization focusing on ShelterBox is really well placed to help in this crisis.
You mentioned women and children. I profiled a couple weeks ago a mother and her child, her teenage daughter, who were fleeing from Odessa. The mother was a police officer with the airport in Odessa, so she had to leave out of fear that they would retaliate against her, lock her up, or even kill her and her family. So she was fleeing, and when they were at the border, cars behind them and in front of them had bullets shot. I mean, it was a war zone. Are you seeing people that are fleeing into Moldova dealing with a lot of PTSD-like symptoms?
Yeah, I mean, most of the people that we've talked to have obviously been through a lot. I talked to a woman earlier this week who had left with her 4 children. She was one of the ones that was able to drive, but said, you know, a missile had hit near their house before they left. They have small children who are obviously really scared. And I think then people get to the border, they're in a foreign country. Many of them have left family at home. There's a question of sort of what do you do next? How long are you here? People want to be able to return. The border crossing, some people are able to cross in their own vehicles. Most are coming on buses, but some people are making that journey on foot too. And so absolutely there's trauma involved in this experience.
And once they make it into Moldova or other parts of Eastern Europe, what's the greatest need for these refugees right now? What do they need the most?
So I think it depends a little bit where they're going. There are buses for people that want to go to Romania or on to other parts of Europe. There's buses to take people here to the community centers. So if people are living in collective centers here, I think right now needs are being really well met. But for that 90% of the refugee population here, they're not actually receiving very much humanitarian assistance. So ShelterBox is looking at how we can best support these people with vital items like hygiene kits and potentially cash assistance so they can get exactly what they need when they need it in either staying here or their onward journey.
And Stephanie, you mentioned cash. That's always the best way to support humanitarian efforts when they're overseas, because sending stuff just becomes too precarious. What's the website where people can donate to continue your efforts helping those refugees?
ShelterBoxUSA.org, and we really appreciate the support. It makes such a difference here on the ground.
And we really appreciate the work you're doing there to support our Ukrainian brothers and sisters. Stephanie Christensen with ShelterBox. Thank you again for taking the time this morning. I know you've got a busy day ahead.
Thank you so much.